Welcome, listener, to another night in the archives. The hour grows late, but the fire is still warm, and the shelves, ever restless, have offered up something curious once again. I am the archivist, and it's my duty, or perhaps it is my obsession, to uncover the forgotten fragments of our realms. Letters, journals, missives that were never sent. The quiet voices that history almost let slip away. Tonight I'll read to you one such piece. The parchment is fragile, the words, they're heavy with time, but if we listen carefully, perhaps we can hear the echoes of the soul who wrote them, and the world that they once belonged to. So then, let us begin. I have before me the field journal of the archivist and explorer discovered the remains of Fenwatch Outpost, recovered what they could of the documents that led to that fateful night, tried to piece together its secrets. Part 4. Recovered from the Ashes. Filed by Archivist Eryndra Vale, Imperial Historical Conservatory. Field Journal, Entry 772B. Field Entry, transcribed at dusk. The ruins of Fenwatch lie deeper in the marsh than the old maps admit. The water has long since swallowed the lower courtyards. Only the north parapet still stands, half sunk, the bricks blackened and glassy from fire. It has been 3 days since I began the excavation. I am alone now. The assistants returned to the city after finding the first traces of thaumaturgic residue. They claimed their dreams had grown strange. I didn't argue. Some discoveries prefer silence. The air here is thick, like breathing through fabric. The kind of air that remembers heat, even when it's cold. Every so often, the stones hum faintly. Or perhaps that's the wind through the cracks. It's difficult to tell. Today, I uncovered the last chamber beneath the commander's quarters. It was sealed from within. Inside were 3 things. A broken lantern, quill fused to the glass, and the remains of a letter, only half legible. The ink had soaked into the fibers, black as night, refusing to fade even after centuries. I read what I could. It was signed by Corporal Corin Hale. His hand shook near the end. The lines waver, ink pooled as though written by trembling fingers. He wrote of fire that went out all at once, of songs that came from nowhere, and of joining. The handwriting slows just before the final words, the last line reading, "Maybe it's time to go home." I've catalogued enough artifacts to know when truth hides behind myth. Every fortress leaves echoes. Supply records, troop logs, correspondence, bones. But Fenwatch feels different. Even the ashes cling. When I brushed them aside, the motes of soot hung in the air longer than they should have, as though reluctant to fall. When I breathed, it tasted of iron and ash. The previous reports mention a fire that consumed the outpost, but there are no burn patterns consistent with natural flame. No scorch, no char, only vitrification, like stone turned to glass, as if the heat had come from within. Some historians believe it was a siege weapon. Others whisper of a curse tied to the chapel sigil. But the letters I found tell a quieter story. a song under the floorboards, of fires that died without smoke, men who walked willingly into the dark. It's not conquest that haunts these halls. It's devotion, something older than loyalty and deeper than fear. I've been copying the surviving fragments into the record books by hand. Even with gloves, the parchment feels warm to the touch. There's one part that unsettles me most. A passage in which Corporal Hale describes the walls breathing. I brushed along the same stones earlier. The surface had strange striations, almost organic. Not quite veins, but not cracks either. If you press your palm flat against them, there's a faint vibration. Rhythmic. Steady. Like a heartbeat. I don't think it's the wind. I've begun to dream of the garrison. Not as it is, ruined, drowned, but as it must have been. Torches bright, banners high, laughter echoing off stone. I see faces I've never known, uniforms of red and gold. They turn to me as if expecting orders, and I look out. Over the forest, no marsh to be seen. When I wake, my hand smells faintly of smoke. There's a superstition among archivists that if you listen too long to a story soaked in sorrow, you begin to live it in small ways. Ink seeps inward. Words root themselves. I think about that when I hold this letter. About the man who wrote it, alone by his dying fire, trying to make sense of the silence pressing in. He thought he was reporting, but I think he was really confessing. And now, so am I. I've placed the recovered artifacts together on the desk. The lantern, the quill, the letter. When the light hits them just right, the reflections form a shape on the wall that almost looks like a window or a door. Sometimes sitting here, I imagine if I were to step through, I would find them all still there. Scouts, the soldiers, the commander, their faces calm, their eyes bright with that strange, quiet faith. Still standing at their posts, guarding a fire that no longer burns. It's raining harder now. The drops strike the stone like distant footsteps. Before I end this entry, I'll record one last observation. The night before last, I woke to find the candle at my bedside extinguished. And yet, the room was not dark. The ashes on the desk glowed faintly, silver, like moonlight trapped in dust. When I breathed out, the glow dimmed. When I breathed in, it brightened, as though the ruins themselves were breathing back. I don't know what remains here. Memory, magic, or simply the weight of too much death. But I know this. The walls still stand. Barely, but they stand. And maybe that's enough. Tomorrow, I'll seal this journal and send it to the conservatory with the recovered letters. Someone wiser than me can decide what happened here. For now, I'll let the silence have the last word. Filed and signed, Archivist Eryndra Vale, Fenwatch Ruins, Western Marches. May the fire rest, and may the quiet keep its secrets. Another letter returned to silence. I often wonder what became of those whose words we've just read, whether their stories ended in peace, or if their echoes still linger, waiting for someone, anyone, to remember. But for now, this one will rest here, among the other voices of the forgotten. Thank you for keeping me company tonight, here amongst the dust and the candlelight. If you'd like to hear more of the stories I've uncovered, the archives are always open. You need only listen. And if you have stories that you would like to add to the archive, or know where I can unearth more, send your missives by courier or scrying stone. Until next time, traveler.